This is a behind the scenes and how to video on the Game Room Solutions arcade light gun cabinet. And I'm going to show you everything from, the really tedious things you have to do with the wiring to unboxing, team molding, till we got a finished product. All right, would you believe it? Every single thing fits in this box. Well, except, the monitor and stuff, but all the wood and what I'm about to show you. So this one, he gave me the amp, the LED light strip, HDMI cable, power cord. A lot of this you can supply yourself, maybe to save a little money. Here's the buttons. You only need about 8 buttons for this particular cabinet. It's not a full-sized 2-player button cabinet. I got 2 power adapters. One is going to be for the LED strips. The other one is going to be for the amp for the audio. And then here is USB extenders. These are really great because you can hook up an Xbox 360 controller or a keyboard and mouse to the cabinet without opening it up. There's your joystick and then the speakers. Here's all your hardware. That's all your cam locks, your screws, everything you're going to need in that one baggie. And then in one of the other bags, I don't know if you showed that there's all the wiring for the buttons as well was included. So here's one of the sides. I chose Jurassic Park, and it's just all, wood. Some of it has grooves cut out for the T-molding. This is the arcade panel here. You can see I still have to cut those holes for all the buttons and the holsters and the wiring and things like that. This is part of the pedestal. That's the left and right side. This goes right below the monitor. And this is the front of the pedestal. So the pedestal, without the pedestal, this thing is not full height. With the pedestal, it's full height. There's everything when you unbox it. And this is me contemplating, what the hell did I get myself into? Now, it's a fun project, but it's a lot of little pieces. First thing to do is just apply all the T-molding to every single piece that has a groove in it. And really, this T-molding is really easy to use, the smaller stuff. You don't even really need a mallet. You'll see like a lot of what I did was just press fitting it in there. And I guess really the key to T-molding is, one, make sure it's straight. If it starts to bend, it gets really difficult to get into the groove. And if you mess up a groove, it gets difficult. So you can see here, it's nice and flush. The only thing you need to know is when you need to cut it straight or do a turn, especially a tight turn. Try not to cut this into the channel if you don't have to, but here the turn is so tight, you're going to want to take some of that T-molding off, like maybe like very, very little, as you see here, just so it can go all the way into the molding. And you'll see I'll cut like a little across it now. That was a little too deep in my opinion, actually. You might want to go less deep than that, like about half of what I just did there. It's just to get a better contact patch, because you definitely want to leave that spine in there because it makes a good contact patch. And then my only other advice with the T-molding is just cut straight when it's time to cut it. Just cut as straight as possible because you don't want curved, end pieces when you have to stop it. But there's a lot of T-molding to apply, but once you get started, it's fairly easy. Do note, depending on what, graphics you choose, there's, other stuff like chrome, colored. You can go with white, black. These big pieces were easy to do. And then just with those turns, a couple of you have to cut. A lot of you don't actually have to cut. You can just get away with pushing them in. Again, you want to keep as much of the spine as you can so it has a nice snug fit, and then cut straight on the edge. Next up was just doing the pedestal. I just kind of wanted to get it out of the way because I knew it was just basically a square box, so might as well just get that done, and then I could set that aside. Or you can build on top of it if you don't want to bend over. That's also an option for you. There's a lot of bending in this process. But it was just the top. If you notice, the top has a hole in it, so you can put a computer all the way at the bottom or in the middle of the cab. I chose the middle of the cab. The speakers here, just mount them up. And then as far as buttons, you just make a little X with a box cutter and then push the button in. Don't mount the actual mechanism to the button yet because it won't fit through that hole. And then we move over here to the power supply. They're going to give you this little auxiliary power supply to put on the outside, which will allow you to plug in and out the arcade cabinet really easily and just have everything running from one power source. It's really nice. So they included a power supply, but you can use any power supply you find online. Go ahead and make sure you cut like at least 2 to 3 inches extra, because you're going to see here, we're going to turn these into patch cables. meaning we're going to take the cables out of this little piece and use it as far as connecting two connectors on our auxiliary piece in a second. So you cut that off. We're going to go ahead and get the box cutter and cut it down the spine here and reveal the 3 cables within. We're going to be using the white and the black cable. The green cable you can discard or save it for a later use. But we're going to take these out. And in a moment, we're going to turn these into patch cables by stripping wire on both ends and adding the connectors that were included with the kit. We're also going to take the actual power outlet in a second here and take some of the shielding off and take the same 3 cables, green, white, and black, and strip them and then add these same blue connectors. So we're going to end up with 3 connectors here, and we're going to end up with 4 connectors on those patch cables in a second, because there's going to be a total of 7 connections. I know it seems like a lot. It's actually fairly simple though, in order to hook up the auxiliary power. So this is just about done here. Just go ahead and crimp. And then here I'm making the patch cables. By the way, these strippers are amazing. If you get a nice pair of strippers, makes the job so much easier. Okay, so I'm just making a patch cable with the white cable. You only need a couple inches like this. It just needs to make like a U like that. You'll see in a second when we start adding it. But you just do one with the white cable with one connector on one side, one on the other, crimp it on, and then the black cable as well. Crimp it on, crimp it off. So white and black should have 2 cables. And now for the actual wiring on the back. So this is the inside of the cabinet, right? The back of the auxiliary power. And you're going to go green on the top. And then on the left, on the right, you're going to go white and then black. So we went from the top and then the 2 far left ports. Now you're left with 4 ports on the left side here. So what we do is we go, I think that's white. Yep, white first, then black, then white, and then black. So white, black, and then we're going to take the other side of that white that we plugged in slot number 1, plug it into slot number 3, and then we're going to take the black we plugged into slot number 2 and plug it into slot number 4. So on the left side there, those 4 cables are just 2 patch cables. White, black, white, black. That's simple. The actual 3 cables going to the power outlet are only on the left side there, green, white, and then black. So here's a zoomed in picture to help you all out in case you're wondering how that all worked. And then you want to test this out as well. But green, white, black on the right, white, black on the left. And then just test it out. You can always test it out because these have lights on them, a lot of these LEDs. And here I just turn off the light to show you, like, it tells you if it has power or not. See, it has power, no power. Power, no power. So here is the Zinmo controller here. And then here's what this is actually doing. You see that's the USB there. And you got player 2 on the left, player 1 on the right. And then as far as what buttons do what, you can see you want your joystick on pin 13, 15, 17, and 19. You got grounds at the bottom and at the, I guess you don't have any at the top. And then you have your different buttons here. And then Game Room Solutions has suggested pins for this is for their main arcade cabinet. But you can see like admin buttons should be somewhere between 9 and 12. L and R buttons should be, up 8 and 7. And it gives you some ideas there of how you want to do your controls. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 would be a typical pin, and then 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you do the other pins for player 2 and similar. Here I'm running the grounds. The grounds go on the top pin. The positives go on the bottom or middle pin. All right, so we got 7 and 8 hooked up. Let me see. And we've got start for player 2. Remember, that's player 2 because we're going to flip this over. 9 and 10. All right, so there you go. I have the 6 wires here. I have the 2 for player 2, and now we have ground. Cool. So our buttons are hooked up. Now let's do the joystick. So I did mess up my joystick here. I had to switch my left and my right. So red is up and orange is down. And then the other two colors, though, check with your manufacturer. I've noticed some go left first and then right, and some go right and then left as far as the order. And then the black wire is ground for the joystick. If you go to the control panel and then you go to hardware and sound, or devices and printers, here you go. And then you can, whoa. Oh, my finger was on the keyboard. Go to game controller settings, and then these should now correspond, like how they're lining up different numbers. All right, back to the build. This part, you just need to screw in all your, I checked my T-molding there, and then you just got to screw in all your cam lock screws. And if you notice in the middle, I was debating whether to mount my amp there at this point in time, but I decided not to, which I'm glad I did. And then what I didn't screw in is actually the monitor mount yet. But okay, so then I did the top piece, and then this little piece I skipped. Then I found the back piece, and the doors. The top door is the one with the T-molding, by the way. One door doesn't have a T-molding slot, so that's how you know between the two doors. So see that's the back door. But I decided not to put it on yet because it would block your view here as a viewer. So there I put that Tyrannosaurus Rex piece, which is the bottom monitor mount. And then this is where I decided where to put the monitor screws there. I don't know if you saw that, but the monitor has 6 different positions that you can screw in, or about 5 or 6. So I chose the middle position. And then I put the marquee in there. And I'm still debating where to put the amp and whether to wire the speakers up yet. Decided not to, I believe, again. Decided to postpone that. And doing some wiring right now on the LED light strips. The LED light strip had a power supply. I had to cut this power supply, splice in the positive and the negative. Super easy to do. And I ran 2 strips of lighting here. You want them offset just a little bit. Do not put them close to the marquee. Put them about an inch away. See, about an inch and a half away from the marquee there. Do not put the lights right up against the marquee. And I did 2 rows, and then I snipped off the excess. I still had plenty of LED lights, but more is not always better. 2 rows is plenty. Then I would put in the control arcade cabinet, which, remember, we wired earlier. See how it was so great that we wired it earlier? Now it's all ready to go, and we don't have to mess with it. So door goes in. The other thing that you don't see here is the door has, when I just connected there, it has little latches you have to install as well. And then you install the cam locks, and then I installed that back plate all the way at the bottom, which had the power cord in it. Then the front plate, and then the bottom plate, and then just cam lock them all in. And as you see, it really gets going once, because you do all that prep work, it really gets moving as far as getting it together. Now this is the last side. You just put all the screws in the last side, and then I cut my holes for the guns. Something I didn't show you earlier in the video is I actually painted the inside of the wood black. You see that black there? Instead of keeping it a wood color. That was a little detail that I did, adding the black. I thought it looked better than the wood, since the whole aesthetic of this cabinet is red, yellow, and black. So this, you just want to line it all up, go little by little, really check it. You'd be I was impressed that it all lined up. I was like, wow. It was it was a miracle. But they did their homework. They sold you the right cabinet. So I think I just got to start doing wiring here. Yeah, so I finally hook up the amp. I decided to put the amp on the back of the monitor, but also where it won't generate too much heat and the monitor can still breathe. And then now I'm just wiring the speakers. The speakers, as far as what you're looking at right now, the positive was on the left, the negative was on the right. But just double check. The speakers are marked. And if you bought some speakers online, it should be marked as well. What's positive, what's negative. And then again, I provided my own speaker wire, but speaker wire is really cheap. And just connect it into the amp, and then I ran a quick sound test. I just plugged it into my MP3 play into my phone through the auxiliary just to make sure it worked really quick. Always test it first. All right, it was working great. I messed with my treble and bass, got it where I wanted it. HDMI and power to the monitor. So we have power to the LED, we have sound, we have the auxiliary going to my computer now, we have the HDMI going to my computer. The only thing we had to hook up was the buttons. All right, here we go. Tokens. Got recoil. Pretty cool, right? Now the back, you've got all this empty space in there. Look at that. That's all empty in there. I could put whatever I want in there. I probably could have put the computer all the way down there in the pedestal, but now it's totally good for any kind of storage I want. There's my power coming in with the fuse box. This back plate is stationary, it does not move. But you do have 1 and 2 door openings, and then you top right there. So when you open the first door, and right now you hear the fan. One of the fans are really loud on this computer. I don't know if you can see that, but you got 2 speakers, you got your lights. I just stapled the light power cord there, and then I don't know if you guys could see that, but all the cables kind of running through this one channel. Wrote the amp. If you want to adjust the volume, I could do that really easily. Coming out of the back of the monitor, I can hook up whatever I want to this monitor. I have an extra HDMI port. I can move the monitor up and down, and then the cables go south from there. We can go ahead and close the top portion, and then bring down to the second bay, which has the actual computer in it, and my power supply and everything else. So here are the guts, if you will. You can see the gun just kind of hangs in there. I've got my control board there. I kind of wired, you know, I would say it's a fairly clean wiring job. It's actually not as much of a nest as you would think. I know exactly where which cable is going. There's a lot of things going on with the USB though, because there's 2 USB extenders, there's the light bar, there's the light gun, there's my Wi-Fi dongle, and then dedicated graphics card there. This is a liquid cooled computer, so I'm not too worried about the heat. And what I did is I moved the I/O right here, so that's the power and the reset switch to the computer. Then I can turn on and off the computer from this switch here. And this is honestly, you know, some of you are gonna call it like a hack job, but I was impressed by my work here, which is getting this full tower case. I cut it in half, and I'm just gonna kind of rotate it here. Okay, so you see the PSU all the way on the bottom, and I know this looks like a rat's nest, but a lot of that is just power supply cables. They just kind of hang in there. You can still see the graphics card, the CPU, and yes, everything is exposed, but I'm not too worried about it because it's inside this, you know, this cabinet at the end of the day. So it's a, check out my Craigslist build if you want to see exactly what the guts are like. And then you can see my Zenmo controller, I screwed it onto the back of the box here. It's pretty cool, right? Like that I fit a full-size tower cut in half in there. and no heating problems whatsoever. I mean, at all. And then this closes up.